Henry Bolton is here, though, OBE, international border expert. Fascinating watching what those guys down in Wales and Llanelli have been doing, because it does show you, doesn't it, that there's an awful lot of people involved in these operations. You know, I mean, look at the number of police there, the number of security staff. You know, they appear to have now left the scene, and it may well be that they'll take a view, whether it's Taylor Woodrow or Serco or whoever, that it's just too much trouble.
They may well do, but I mean, you know, there are two things in what you've just said, and by the way, I think, you know, Stan's spot on the money there when he says, you know, what the government is in the Home Office are engaged in at the moment, whether it's barges, whether it's asylum centres, or whether it's hotels, is finding bed spaces around the nation.
Well, we now know they're spending £500,000 on empty beds in case there's more people coming.
Indeed, but that's only 5,000, and in 2 days last week we had 1,070 come over. So that 5,000 could be taken up quite rapidly. But they're looking for bed spaces, but they are going to. That's always going to be the case unless they reduce the flow significantly, and that doesn't seem to be happening at all. Not to any.
Or at least if they can't reduce the flow, they start removing people, which they're also not doing.
Exactly. So, you know, there's a real failure there. But I think, you know, the cost, I wonder, it's interesting looking at that footage that Stan's produced there, which is really interesting, and they do a great job. But that the police, as you say, then, you know, there are taxi drivers or whoever, you know, and all. I wonder whether all of that funding is actually accounted for in what the Home Office figures give us, because I doubt it. I doubt it's, you know, some of that funding will be from the local police budget, some from the local authority budget. I think you'll find that actually, if we really were able to do the analysis, if the figures were transparent, then we'd find that the cost of housing these people is a great deal higher than
and it's already astronomical. It's unbelievable, because we've also got today, thanks to the Sun, some footage, which I think we can see now, of a new migrant destination, which is Wethersfield Air Base in Essex, which I think you probably know, where people will stay. The first 50 asylum seekers arrived there, apparently. They'll stay up to 9 months before their claims are processed, and when you can see what the facilities are like, I think people will be quite shocked. They've obviously just been refurbished. They've got a gym, they've got basketball court, they've got quite nice, you know, bedding arrangements. I mean, yes, it's, you know, perhaps not what you'd be paying $500 a night for, but, you know, for an illegal migrant to get a nice little bed in a place in Essex, not bad. This
was assessed, and there was a report on it that said, actually, it's still not good enough. The internet speed's not good enough. The public transport links aren't good enough.
Is there a hair salon?
I don't know. I mean, there should be a pizza takeaway there. There should be a cinema, or there should be a bowling alley. I mean, where do you stop with this? It's sending all the wrong messages.
I don't know the area. You may do. Apparently up to 1,700 adult single men are going to be staying at the site eventually. It will be manned with CCTV 24/7. Every arrival will get a welcome pack with toiletries and details on what it is to be a good neighbour. So that's all right then. And sessions provided on how to integrate into the community. Well, I wonder if the community have been asked whether they want to be integrated with 1,700 young men from abroad.
We have got communities across the country, and we've just seen one in South Wales, that, you know, the patience is running out because the density of these people being accommodated is getting ever greater. The more we pull in, the more towns like Bournemouth or Brighton or Folkestone or Canterbury or Cardiff or wherever it is, Derby, the more this becomes a problem. We are not providing the additional schooling, we are not providing the additional policing, we're not providing the additional public services. And so, you know, the population is being overwhelmed by it. And that is going to lead to peaceful protests like that.
And it's becoming
more and more tense.
Yeah, also it's becoming more and more noticeable. Because the sheer numbers would dictate that you will see more people in your neighbourhood if there are more hotels being filled up with asylum seekers.
But you see, you know, some people would probably say, sorry, Mike, that that's a sort of racist response. But it's not. It's not. There are the United Nations, the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the Council of Europe. They all recognise that if you change the demographic of any society too quickly, beyond the pace which people can actually sort of assimilate that change and adapt to it, you create social tension, and it is one of the drivers of internal conflict. It drives wars.
Yeah.
I mean, in an extreme case, and the government seems to be totally negligent of this possibility that if this carries on, the situation will get more and more tense. There is a greater and greater likelihood of violence.
Yeah.
And then who's going to be blamed? It's not going to be the government. It's not going to be the asylum seekers or the immigrants who actually came over here using criminality to enable them to do so. It's going to be the local community who have simply got no other recourse.
No, exactly.
Nobody is listening to them.
And let's not forget that in all of these situations, particularly where hotels are commandeered, the local employees in those hotels get fired.
Yeah.
So the community loses, jobs, basically, because the people who used to do those jobs are out of work in the community with no other work to do, and the new people who are working in there are getting paid minimum wage for security, whatever it is.
And the profit doesn't go back into the local community. A local hotel, it might do, but these are, in the main, larger companies who are running these hotels. It goes into shareholder dividends and directors' dividends, and they've got other contracts, for example, for laundry and what have you. They tend to use local businesses to support them less, so it's not going into the local community. And then, if at some point the government gets on top of this, you've got a whole lot of hotels which will be up for sale, probably partly wrecked, and they've been lost to the local tourism industry. Local tourists have got nowhere to stay, so they're not going to these places as much. So there's a whole range of problems here, and none of them are being addressed, and the people who are going to be suffering all the way along that chain are the local inhabitants.
Yeah, it's an absolute
wrong
shocker.
the way this is being done.
It is wrong.
It would be
and
understandable.
It's been done without any mandate, by the way, because nobody said this was going to happen.
No, but it's also one could possibly go along with it if you could see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But seeing as there is very little effort, there's certainly no practical impact on stopping or slowing the flow of boats, then the sympathy simply isn't there.
No, it really isn't. You're wearing a badge on your lapel, which looks to me like the Primrose League badge.
It is.
Tell me about it.
Well, as of yesterday, we went live with something that I've kept quiet about, because in the past, when you are going to you've got a political project in the mix.
Yeah.
If you tell too many people about it, somebody's going to jump on the ideas. They're going to sort of disrupt it. They're going to whatever. Anyway, yesterday we went live with the Primrose League. The Primrose League, formed in 1883 by Randolph Churchill, Winston Churchill's father, and a few of his colleagues, outside the Conservative Party, because the Conservative Party was losing touch with what ordinary people wanted. They weren't supporting communities. There wasn't the one nation aspect, not David Cameron's one nation approach.
I was going to say, it sounds a bit familiar, that.
It does, but David Cameron's one nation conservatism was really a very liberal approach.
Yeah.
What this was an approach of, we all live in Great Britain. We all live under this flag, under a constitutional monarchy. We are all in this together, and we need to have pride in what we're doing. We need to further the interests of the nation for all of us. So it's a far more patriotic approach to it. And they pretty much defined and drove the agenda for cultural conservatism, in that sense being respect for our heritage, our culture, our character, our spirit as a nation, as the foundations on which the achievements of Victorian Britain were built, and the future of society would evolve and grow. And that's very much, I think, where we are now. We've got, and there was also an attempt to head off socialism, Marxist socialism, and we're seeing much of these same dynamics at the moment. Our failure to lead and give direction and vision to cultural conservatism. There is no one nation leadership, and we're failing to protect our own identity. And we see that in policing. Policing is going down. Violent crime is going up. We see it in what we've just talked about, failure to secure our borders, etc. Many things and the country is frustrated and unhappy. And so what we've done is we've formed this movement, the Primrose League, which is not a political party. It never was in the 121 years that it existed until it finally closed in 2004. But we've resurrected it. And the idea is through the membership, large membership, to actually carry a weight of political influence, if you like, as it did before. The membership before was 2 million.
Okay. So on the Tory party, on the influence of the Tory party, because we've now got this kind of group within the Tory party, haven't we, sort of what they're calling themselves kind of proper Conservatives, because there is a problem with the Conservative Party. It's full of people like William Hague, who was writing this week in the Times about how migration is good for Britain. Well, you know, that's a sort of globalist view that, you know, everybody knows migration is better than not having it. Well, up to a point, Lord Copper, you know, it's better as long as it's done properly. And immigration is actually, I mean, I was watching the Wham documentary on Netflix, which you probably didn't expect me to introduce to you. But it was George Michael's father who was talking, who was a Greek Cypriot who had come to Britain and to basically work his backside off, build a family, build a business. That was the sort of immigration that we used to have. Now we have people coming illegally, and we don't know where they're going.
I think the nation does not have a problem with properly managed, and that includes the rate of it, properly managed immigration of people who can and want to contribute to the society as a whole, to assimilate into it. But what we're seeing is a failure to protect British culture, identity and values, and actually, in some cases, a demand that are, if you like, native culture and values, which have constantly evolved, partly because of immigration, I get that, but our society is being engineered to make way for foreign cultures coming in, and that is not the right approach.
No.
We are going to end up with problems such as France if we continue down that road. So it's not immigration, black and white, that we are that anybody's opposed to. It's the failure to manage it in a proper way.
Yes, and that is absolutely and utterly the problem. Because if it was managed in the proper way, we wouldn't be having any of these problems. We wouldn't have to commandeer hotels. We wouldn't have to pay millions and billions. And people are right.
If you can't secure and manage your borders, and I've said it before, all of the cocaine and heroin that's used in this country has come across our borders. It's not just people. And if you can't secure and manage your borders correctly, really, what good are you as a government, really?
And what good are you as a country if you haven't got any proper borders?
And we need to have pride in ourselves.
But listen, quickly, Primrose League, is it launching or launched?
It's launched, as I say, not a big song and dance, because I didn't want to let people know.
Got a website you can give us?
Yes, www.primroseleague.uk. It's got the history there, it's got the what the values, what the objects are, the mission, and you can look at joining as well. If people don't join, if we don't do this together, then Britain, I think, is lost.
Okay. Henry, thank you very much indeed.